Welcome to Cooking with Stacy. I'm Stacy, and today I'm making sauerkraut. Well, I guess not today. Today I'm starting the process. 1 to 4 weeks from now, it'll be completely fermented and be sauerkraut using these two ingredients, cabbage and pickling and canning salt. That's all you need to make wonderful sauerkraut. So I'm going to go ahead and take it's about a 2.5 pound cabbage. I'm going to start cutting it, and I'm going to cut it into very small, thin slices. You can do this with a knife or a mandolin, and that's for serious. Lots of cabbage and lots. You're going to want to cut it really thin. And then I have a bowl right here. It's ready to go. And I'm going to place my cabbage along with some salt, because that's what you're going to need to ferment it. So I'm going to place in some of my cabbage. And I'm going to place in some of my salt. And if I layer cabbage and salt, it will draw the moisture out. And you'll see there's a really fun process at the end. But it calls for 3 tablespoons for 5 pounds of cabbage, and I have 2.5 pounds of cabbage, so I'm going to do 1.5 tablespoons of salt. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle my salt in, and then I will add my next layer of cabbage. And keep on layering it until you've chopped your whole head of cabbage, or 2 heads if you're going to make a really large batch. So go ahead. And I'm from Minnesota, and we eat sauerkraut on a lot of different things, especially in the winter. It's becoming fall. I've already had my first kind of Oktoberfest meal, and I really was sad that I didn't have my own sauerkraut. So I'm going ahead. I got this from the farm this week, and I'm going to make my own sauerkraut. So now I have 2 bowls of my cabbage mixed with the salt, 2.5 to 3 pounds of cabbage. It's ready to go into my crock. This crock I sterilize because you don't want to have any extra bacteria or any weird things growing in your crock. I wouldn't use bleach because that kind of destroys the whole process of what we're trying to do. So I just sanitize mine with boiling water. And I have my plate that's going to go on top of the cabbage once it's packed inside the crock firmly. I suggest just going to Goodwill or something like that and getting a cheap plate. And then I have my plate weight. There's special tools, but it just needs to hold down the plate and keep all of the cabbage underneath the liquid. So right now you have 2 options. You can either just layer this into the crock and push it down and put the plate on, and in about 24 hours, the salt should release the brine within the cabbage, and you're going to definitely want to make enough brine so that it covers the cabbage by a good 1/2 inch or so, because then no bacteria will get in. It'll be a clean environment for the cabbage. But I like this method better, which is the squishing it up with your hands method. It's a lot of fun, and it releases the liquids a lot faster, and you get your aggressions out, and it's just a good time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, with clean hands, I'm just crunching the cabbage and the salt together, and I'm going to do this until I get liquid in the bottom of my cabbage bowl. Oh, it's a good workout and fun. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and the fresher your cabbage is, the more water is going to be released. If you have an older cabbage, it'll be pretty dry, and you may, after 24 hours, if there's not liquid being released, you're going to just make a solution of salt water, and you're going to pour that over the top. But luckily I have a nice fresh cabbage, and I can squeeze it just after a minute or so, and it's dripping liquid. So this is wonderful. At this point you can add other things such as carrots, shredded carrots. My favorite is beet kraut. I really like adding a beet. You just have to be careful with the beets because If you add too much, they make your sauerkraut really slimy. So this bowl is done. I'm going to just go ahead, actually, and just pack this to show you right into my crock. So I'm going to put all of this cabbage and the salt into my earthenware crock. You can use a food grade plastic also, but definitely never metal. It has to be a non-reactive. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place this all, juice included, into my crock. And you're just going to push it down so you release any air bubbles, because oxygen is not our friend when we're fermenting in making kraut. So I'm going to push it all down, and then I'm going to go ahead and do my next one. I'll repeat that, and then I'll put my plate on and my weight. So we have our cabbage and salt, and it's all packed down in there. I used my fist, and you can see the water actually is almost already covering up. There's a lot of liquid in it, but so at this point I'm just going to go ahead and take my clean plate. I'm going to put it on top of my kraut, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a canning weight on top, and this just forces the liquid above the plate. And you can go ahead and leave this in an area. Sometimes people just leave them in the corner of their kitchen so they don't forget about them. You'll start to notice in 2 days that it's starting to turn a little bit sour, and it definitely will take on a smell. I personally love the smell. And it will also sometimes get little pieces of mold, and that's just the little floats of cabbage interacting with the air. So just skim those off, and as long as your sauerkraut is below the water, everything under there is completely fine. And just keep on sampling, and in a couple weeks you will have wonderful, wonderful sauerkraut. In the summer, it'll go much faster. You might want to add a little bit more salt. In the winter, you're going to get a slower fermentation. So try this at home. It's super easy, fun, and tasty. Thanks so much for watching Cooking with Stacy, Sauerkraut edition, and happy eating.